Yo, what's good, my fellow deadheads? Your Overlord has returned with yet another JJK Phantom Parade video. Today we are going to be talking about yet another category, and arguably the strongest category in the game for very obvious reasons. Just another one of these videos where I kind of break down categories and talk about how strong does category look, how weak does category look. If they started adding category style content into the game, how will we be looking on that? But if you guys do enjoy these videos, you can go down below, you can leave a like, you can hit the subscribe, you can hit the notification bell so you can get notified every single time the Deadman unlocks his 6 eyes, decide to hit the infinite glide. And you can also comment down below and let me know what you want to know. But we're going to go ahead and get right into the video and just reveal our category here. Really random before we show off the category that we're talking about today. Guys, I'm almost level 90, big GG for that. I think tomorrow at reset, I will be able to get to level 90 because I only have 2 refills on my stamina, but I'm basically in range to be level 90, so GG to me for that. But the category that we're going to be talking about today is actually going to be the Jujutsu High Personnel category. I know I skipped over a few categories back here, but I actually want to go over this category next just because this category is quite literally the most impactful category in the game, the best, most well thought out category in the game, and it just makes a lot of sense because the personnel at Jujutsu High are the most experienced sorcerers that they have. So obviously, if you go into the game and the category consists of the most experienced sorcerers that we know of, they're going to be some of the strongest characters in the game, right? Every gojo, not every gojo, but 3 out of 5 gojos now are, over half of the gojos are Jujutsu High personnel versus being second years at Tokyo. So quite literally, you have the best debuffer in the game, you have some of the best buffers in the game, you have Yellow Yaga as another really strong debuffer, you have even healers in this category. Like, this category is absolutely snapped. And I was even making like the argument, that or in my head I was kind of like thinking, I was like, dang, if I'm using Gojo as my debuffer, then who am I using as my DPS? But in all reality, like, dude, you have a really strong mono red team right here in Domain Gojo, Nanami here, the new Nanami whenever he comes out, or he's not even going to be Jujutsu personnel, he's going to be second year or first year at Tokyo High. Or is he second year? I think he's the same year as Gojo, I'm pretty sure. Then you have Yaga here, and then you have Mai that you can use for the DPS, the main DPS. She is not going to be a better DPS than like a Gojo unit per se, like other Gojo units that are predicated towards DPS, but she still is a solid enough DPS that this team has a viable DPS, right? We have a viable red DPS, we have a viable blue DPS. Green Nanami is kind of whatever, but then we have Green Gojo to kind of take up the to pick up right there, and then we have Yellow Nanami, who honestly I'd be very excited to see this Nanami get a to get an SP buff. Like, what are the next lines of SP buffs going to be? You remember in my last video I said that SP buffs, it seems like they like to do one unit who absolutely needs it, who needs to be revived from the dead, one unit who everybody will be hyped to see it, and then just one other unit, right? So I don't think that Nanami is necessarily one unit that needs it. I think you can still use this Nanami if you really need to, but I do think that people will be really hyped to see him just because we know he is like a menace with the black flashes. Like, was this not the first, like, kind of like, I mean, I guess Yuji in any capacity is really just like a black flash heavy character, but like Nanamis are specifically built to that. And he's also just a really strong yellow unit as well, because that right there, increases damage dealt to people who are weak to yellow. I don't think any of this stuff gives anything for specifically being yellow, so like it's like a added bonus if the enemy is yellow, but they don't have to be yellow. But this Nanami can do like pretty solid damage. Who do I think we would see SP buff in this category first? Because none of these characters are SP buffed yet for obvious reasons. They are the seniors of the series, right? These are the strongest characters or the most reliable, because being a teacher does not just prove direct like strength, right? Yaga's the entire principle, but that does not necessarily make him the strongest sorcerer ever. Literally, Gojo and Geto are stronger than Yaga, but Yaga has a good head on his shoulders and cares about the youth for real, so that's why he's a teacher. Not only is it technique, it is also experience, it is also mentality, leadership. Are you a teacher? Like, there's a trait called coachability. Can you coach though, right? Not only coachability, but can you coach? Can you mentor people? So there are a lot of different aspects. Gojo, Gojo is kind of a sucky teacher because everything just works for him. It's kind of hard for him to explain the work. Quite literally, when I was in high school, I remember I used to do math, and like I used to have math classes, and I used to always get my answer, and the teacher would always think I was cheating because I didn't show my work. And I'm just like, bro, I just think that fast. I just see it. I can just see the answer, bro. It's obvious to me. That's why there's no work. That's how Gojo is. Gojo is I can't tell you the work because I didn't do any work. My eyes just see this, bro. Literally. So yes, this category is quite literally the best category. It'll be a while, honestly, before we see anybody in this category SP buff. And honestly, I'm talking about Yellow Nanami. Who really needs the SP buff first is Blue Gojo. And honestly, guys, I'm thinking about starting a series where I just talk about what SP buffs characters need, but not really trying to predict what order they would come out in, because that's too hard to predict. But I think it's a little bit easier to predict what they would get as changes in their SP buffs, because typically their SP buffs only change two things majorly, because this here and this here. But we now have seen a lot of different variations of this. We've seen it to where both of these are skills getting upgraded. We've seen this to where both of these are passives getting upgraded. We've seen this to where one is a passive, one is a skill. So that's the three combinations that we have right now. We do not know of anything else for a combination of what they could give you for the SP potential unlock, what other parts of your kit they are willing to touch, right? But I think the only thing that they're willing to touch are just like passives and skill effects, right? Nothing else like extra stats, because you already get extra stats from the SP system itself. Like what are they going to do besides those three things, right? Either 2 auto skill buffs, 2 I guess they could add an auto skill. That is an interesting avenue that they could take. They could quite literally just add on completely new passives. They could SP buff characters, and instead of changing things that are already there, let's keep things that are already there and then add on one extra layer, right? And they already kind of do that, because they'll edit the passive and keep the first part of the passive the same, and then add something onto the end of the passive. But like, they could just add a completely extra passive and just divide it out that way. All that will really do is make it a little easier to read. So I guess it wouldn't really change much. But yes, since it would just separate the actual buffs that they're adding on instead of consolidating it under one skill, they could also just add in completely new passives as well and just have them separate from the original passive that they were. And it would make sense to do that. It sounds like while they even do that, if they could just put it all under one skill, just upgrade one skill and put it all under one skill. Because sometimes the way that they buff characters in the game, it's multiple buffs on one thing. Okay, so for example, right? Let's look at Green Yuji. I think Green Yuji is about to prove my point here. So Yuji's passive used to be a boost to Black Flash rate, a boost to physical technique, and then recovers 5 cursed energy, right? Now it's that and then something else, but I'm pretty sure the extra part is like specified separately in the, when he zones in, he gets these 2 things, I think, but not the cursed energy. It's weird how it's like broken up, or I guess it says all together right there. So maybe they updated that in the game, but I feel like on the wiki it used to say the cursed energy separate from the actual zone buff itself, showing a differentiation, or there was something else that was separate from zone because they didn't want it to stack with zone, right? So that is why they would do something that just is an extra passive altogether, so that 2 things can stack separately. But yeah, guys, there's not really much to say about the Jujutsu High personnel category. I mean, we've been using Yaga since literally the beginning of the game. We've been using Yaga since the beginning of the game. We've been using Nanami since the beginning of the game. We've been using Gojo in whatever capacity since the beginning of the game. It started with Blue Gojo, it went to Green Gojo, it went to Red Gojo, and now everybody's just using Red Gojo forever. And if you don't have Red Gojo, you're still literally trying to pick him up. His rerun is actually tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that and make sure that you pick up and bolster your Jujutsu High personnel category. But yeah, as you can see, the only one I'm missing here is Mai, and I think I should do a roundup of like all the units that I'm missing, honestly, just off of this, because this is a very easy, clear way to see everything that you are missing. But Gakuganji is a hell of a debuffer, and he's not even color specific. Like, I didn't even talk about this man yet. We were just taking all that time to talk about Gojo specifically, really, but we have an incredible debuffer right here, right? So even if you didn't want to use DE Gojo and you wanted to use another Gojo for DPS, or whenever they give us another new Gojo that is relevant, or whenever they finally SP buff one of these older Gojos, right, then we could, you know, see Gakuganji on the debuffs. We got Shoko for the heals and buffing. We got Yaga for additional buffing if we wanted to, because it's all generalized with these 3. Like, these guys are a crazy triad right here. And then just throw any DPS you want behind them, you know, like any, you know, SP buffs Nanamis, or SP buff Gojos, or SP buff nobody else. Mai you could put in the background. And who else are we missing for Jujutsu High personnel? Nobody? Let me take a look at the wiki real quick and make sure I'm not goofing on your chat. Okay, so obviously these guys count as personnel. These guys count as faculty, right? That's what it says on the wiki. In the game, it says personnel, but really they are just faculty, because at the end of the day, this is a school. Yes, we're still missing Akita or Akari Nita. We're still missing Kusakabe. We got plenty of Shokos now. We're still missing Utahime, and then. That's kind of crazy, because if you look at the wiki, it says that Nanami and Meimei are like professional sorcerers and not even faculty. But like, I guess they're still, I mean, that's why it's called Jujutsu High personnel, because even though they're not teachers directly, they are still working under Jujutsu High. That's so then Tengen is a professional sorcerer. Tengen does work with the school, but like a Tengen unit would be wild. Yuki Tsukimo is a professional sorcerer, so she would definitely be Jujutsu affiliated. She seems kind of like a free agent though. Ino is Jujutsu High personnel as well, so he should be on the way pretty soon. That just adds another DPS to the category. But let's see, any other professional sorcerers? Nah, yeah, that's it. Besides the professional sorcerers, like the faculty category, or not faculty, the Jujutsu High personnel category is not that massive, but the people in that category are very impactful. And I can go ahead and tell you right now, they could definitely drop Akari as a support. Kusakabe could be like a counter domain type of character to help with fights that enemies can pop their domains in. Would be really interesting. They could give us a new Ichichi if they wanted to. Ichichi actually did something important in the manga towards the end of the manga. So I mean, like, Ichichi is a character that actually does, you know, pop back up, and people actually do rely on him at different times for different things. So we could see future Ichichis. Don't be surprised if we do. Definitely they're gonna cheese more Gojos, obviously, more Shokos probably. And honestly, I'm surprised they haven't given us a young Yaga yet, because young Yaga, even in the hidden inventory arc, he was still their principal, I'm pretty sure. Either way, he was still faculty. He would still be in this category. Damn, how old is that boy Yaga? But I'm very excited for Utahime, because first of all, Utahime is a mommy. I love Mean Girls, and she's gonna be a crazy buffer when she comes out. Gakuganji, I don't know that we're gonna see that many more variants of him. We could, because of a specific situation I am thinking of, but like, again, don't know. That one is not really in the stars. We're definitely going to see a version of Tengen at some point in the game, right? That'd be really hype. Tengen would probably be the ultimate buffer, the ultimate tank, because the entire barrier system is built off of Tengen shit. So Tengen is definitely going to be in the game at some point. And then Yuki Tsukumo could enter the game as a very menacing DPS. And guys, I like the faculty category just because I've talked about some students from Jujutsu High and the other categories, right, or from the Tokyo school and the Kyoto school, and I had not even thought about the avenue of going and looking at who has not been introduced into the game yet and who could we see, right? Because for the Tokyo school, for the third years, because we don't even have a category for 30 years at Tokyo, actually. So like, whenever Hakari, whenever Yuta, whenever those two come back in the story, like at the point that they're at right now, then we're gonna finally have 30 years from Tokyo. But also, we could probably have 30 years from Tokyo Jujutsu High as a category altogether at that point, because a very big linchpin of the next part of JJK in the Culling games and what's going to be, you know, talked about on the live stream, the animes, they're working on the animation for it. They're going to be talking about that on the 31st, right? A big linchpin of that is finding Hakari. The 30 years played a very big role in the Culling game, is what I will say. But guys, I'm gonna just leave my ideas right there. Again, this category is definitely the strongest category in the game. It is literally no questions, no hands down. And I remember I was making the point talking about what is really the difference between 30 years and you know, personnel at the school is quite literally experience. That's why the Jujutsu sorcerers that I'm talking about right here are professionals. And like, even though somebody like Todo is an absolute menace, Todo is certainly just an oddity. Every single third year at the Kyoto school is not built like Todo, but actually every third year I can't front on you. Third year is basically like borderline. You are like faculty at that point, because like they relied on Yuta hella in the story. They relied on Hikari hella in the story once he came out. They relied on Todo hella unintentionally. Like Todo. They didn't rely on Todo. Todo was just like, I'm pulling up anyway. I'm here, bro. Let's fight. Let's duke it out. Todo is an egoist from Blue Lock in a different series, basically. But guys, again, that's gonna be it for the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, you can go down below. You can hit the like button. You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified every single time the Dead Man unlocks the 6,000 subs to hit the infinite glide. Then you can also go down below and comment and let me know what you want to know, and I'll let that hollow purple go, Murasaki. And remember, the Dead Man does love you, and hope that you're having an excellent time. And I appreciate your guys' interaction and feedback on these videos. When I started doing this series, talking about all the different categories, I was not 100% sure, but I've gotten a few comments here and there, and it seems like people were enjoying it to some degree, to some, intensity. So I'm glad that you enjoyed this. I'm glad that I could bring you some enjoyable content, but get ready for the next video, Magic Knights, and peace out.